Unplanned, a movie about abortion, the right to life, and Planned Parenthood, and one woman's courageous, inspiring struggle in trying to find a meaning to it all. It's a true story, and I'm going to give you my conservative take on this film. I'm going to start right now.
We are an abortion provider.
I can't be a part of this anymore. Everything that they told us is a lie.
Don't underestimate the repercussions of this. You gotta be careful.
Rhonda, please don't do this! Rhonda!
Let me tell you what's gonna happen if you walk through that door.
Congratulations. You've made an enemy of one of the most powerful organizations on the planet.
Hi, my name is Kyle Suggs, and welcome to my channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and filter them right. Now with these movie reviews, I take a 5-category ranking system and I convert that into a 4-star rating. And lastly, I give my go, no go, or go with caution review from a conservative take on whether or not you should check out the movie. Please be mindful that during the conservative take portion of the review, there will be some spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything about the film specifically, just go into the description and click ahead. So I just saw this movie and I want to talk about it because it's really, really important to bring this to you because it's such an important subject matter. This movie is about a woman named Abby Johnson, and she was working at Planned Parenthood, and she was a person who was believing in the idea that a woman's right to choose was their inherent right, and that nobody should really say anything negatively about that. So she lives her life. She has some situations in the past that should have prevented her potentially from seeing it that way, but nonetheless, she had a driven career, moves her way up the rankings of Planned Parenthood, and ultimately becomes a clinic director, one of the youngest in the country, of a Texas Planned Parenthood center. She gets called into a abortion and experiences that through the eyes of an ultrasound. It was so traumatizing to her that she realized that she could not do this any longer. This is her true story, and Unplanned is based on her book, and she actually gave input into the screenplay from the producers. And so the movie is really, really powerful. It's rated R. It's very graphic in some ways. It's very emotional, and the story is very powerful, but it's not too in-depth. So I give the story in this film a 5 out of 10. As far as emotional impact, this is the film's strongest category. I'm giving this a 10 because some of the scenes in the movie are very, very impactful. And I'm like looking at it, I can't believe they're showing this. And yeah, it's a very moving film. The first 20 minutes, if you can get through that, you're pretty much on your way through. But then there's one part toward the beginning of the second act, which is pretty strong. And if you can get through that, you're home free for the most part. But at the end, there's a pull of when things start to go differently for Abby. And so this movie is one of the more powerful films you'll see, especially if you understand what's going on from the political side of it and what's happening to suppress the information from coming out. Category of intangibles, I'm going to give this film a 9 for 3 major reasons and one other aside. One is the truth bombs that are dropped in this film, the level of information that's given, and also the emotional impact, which I mentioned before. But also, the characters and the actors who portray them are very believable. In fact, the leading actress, Ashley Bratcher, had said that her mother nearly aborted her. So when she started to take the role, she understood that from that perspective and gave a performance which is, in my opinion, very, very memorable. So for the category of watchability, I'm going to give this film a 9 for the simple fact the information presented here simply needs to be shared. And it needs to be revisited because things are going to come at you in different ways. The first time you see it, it's going to be emotional. The second time, I imagine, it's going to be more intellectual. And the third time and fourth time and fifth time, you're going to be with groups and family and friends discussing it. So that's why this movie is a watchability of 9 because it just has to be shared. Don't worry about the R rating. I'll talk about that in the conservative take. So for my overall impression of this film, I'm going to give Unplanned a 7. A solid score for a very good movie that everybody should see, in my opinion, and sit back and discuss and take a look at. Because no matter what side of the fence you're on, it will offer you a perspective that you probably were not privy to. Procedures, tactics, methods, and also, and moreover, what a woman actually goes through taking this procedure on, and how it affects communities and families. And it's just a powerful thing that you don't necessarily think about when you just think about the subject of abortion. This movie hits all the major points, and it doesn't shy away from controversial subjects. And that's a good thing. So for my conservative take, I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about the production of the film. And some of that may spill over into the plot, which is why this is a spoiler section. Okay, so when Flix decided to take this film on, they understood the controversial nature of it and that they could be under protests and attacks and so forth. So they started the production under a title named Redeemed and told the actors and actresses in this film, if you come on this role, you will be under a non-disclosure agreement. You're not going to be allowed to talk to anyone about it on social media or period. Secondly, they warned them and said, look, this could be your last film, that you will probably be blacklisted in Hollywood because for reasons that I'm not going to discuss in this particular review, it's just a very divisive thing to go against Planned Parenthood. And so the actors decided to do it anyway. They signed on knowing full well what the risks were. As with all Flix films, Unplanned has a strong spiritual component, which is refreshing, which serves the story, which is not forced, and gives the perspective of the pro-life movement and the families that are against this procedure. It shows how it affects husbands, mothers, fathers, how it affects the community, and it shows a compassion that I don't think many people understand or even see displayed in the TV, the media, or anything. So for that reason, it's a movie that I think needs to be seen, if nothing else, to give that perspective. So as far as the R rating, the question of whether or not it deserves or not is debatable. Abby Johnson actually thinks that it may actually deserve that, but in my opinion, I've seen a lot worse. I think it's the subject matter, and I think it's because of the political nature of it. Is it appropriate for 13, 14, 15-year-olds to see? I would say yes. And maybe even a little younger if they're more mature. But for the most part, I think it's a film that should not detract any person from seeing. And I'm going to read a quote from Abby Johnson, the person who's the subject matter of this, who became an activist for the pro-life movement. She says, "We are pushing the boundaries of what has never been before on such a wide scale by showing America exactly what abortion is. And abortion is disturbing. It's violent. In my opinion, one of the most impactful films of our time is The Passion of the Christ. It was rated R, so I feel Unplanned is in good company. An R rating from the MPAA isn't going to slow the movie down. I believe people are ready for the truth." So for my final take, I'm going to give Unplanned 3.5 stars out of 4, a film I highly recommend and one of the highest rated films I have this year, mainly because its watchability, emotional impact just takes this film and elevates it to a level that I wasn't anticipating going into. But the most important thing is, what do you think? Have you seen Unplanned? What do you think about the R rating? Is that going to deter you from seeing it or bringing your friends or family or even maybe your young teen to go see? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like the content on this channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and filter it to the right, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button below. And also, I'm going to leave you with this. This quote was left on the screen at the end of the movie, and I will see you in the next video.